Hey guys, this is Kamlesh. So today we will be talking about accessing remote boxes, which is pretty common in large organization. So let me give you a scenario. Your colleague come to you and say that something is breaking on the production box, pre-production boxes. So and he said that let's go and check the logs for, let's say, a person whose ID is XYZ. Now you have no clue what you have to do. Basically, what is a pre-production server, how you access the logs, how you get to this ID, you have no clue. So let's talk about what are boxes. Boxes are nothing they are servers. Like you run the code on your machine, like you run your code on your machine and you get your output in system.out. This is standard output, so you get your output in this. In the same way, when the code is running on a server, instead of writing it on a standard output, it writes it on a file. So these files are called logs. Okay, so now the first thing is, this is not running on your machine, so you have to, this is running on some other box, some other machine which you have to access remotely. Now how will you do that? So now the scenario is, you are at your local box and someone has said to access another box. Now obviously, to access the logs, you need to find out where the logs are. The logs is most probably inside the box where the code is running. So basically the logs are over here. So you need to get this logs. To get this log, obviously you need to access this box. So how will you access this box? So to access this box, first you need to know the address of it. And yes, everyone knows what is an address in computer science is that IP address. Or you can use a host name as well, like you do in facebook.com, and it gets converted to IP. Both are the same thing. You are ultimately going to get an IP and you are going to try to access this box. So how do we do that? You open a terminal in your local machine and you try to do SSH. So to do SSH into this machine, what you need to do is that you first need to authenticate yourself. First thing, to authenticate yourself, there are two ways to authenticate yourself. First is by using username and password, which is not used by many companies because it is not, system administration are not very comfortable by providing username and password for everything. So the second and mostly used way of logging into some other boxes are public and private keys. So what do I mean by public and private keys is that it is an asymmetric encryption. Now before we get forward, let's understand what is asymmetric encryption. Okay, so what happens is that public key is meant to be distributed to everyone, and private key is meant to be kept to yourself, a very secret key. Okay, so what's the process is that you send your public key to another user, to another box, to another user. And what happens is that if that box want to send you some message secretly, what it does is that he take the message, encrypt it with your public key, and make a new message which is encrypted. Okay, now this encrypted message is sent back to you, and the only way you can decrypt this message is via the private key that only you have, by the way. So no one in the middle can sniff this message and see that what this message was. Now we are going to use the same concept to authenticate ourselves to this box. So what we do is that we provide our public key to the server. Now how do we do that? In this scenario, you have to personally go to a system administration and say that add my public key to the authenticated keys of the server. So what happens is that your public key is taken and this public key is added to a list of public keys which are authenticated, which are the public keys of your colleagues and everyone authenticated. Now what happens is that when you try to SSH, you provide your public key over here and it sees that okay, this public key is existing here, so he is authenticated to use it. Let's present him with a challenging message just to authenticate. So what it does is that it sends back to you a message which is, by the way, encrypted by your public key. Now you decrypt the message and send it back to the server. And by the way, server knows what message it encrypted. It already has stored with that. If both the message matches, then it is encrypted. Now you have authenticated yourself. Okay, so now why do we need SSH only? There are other protocols which provide username password for authentication. What is so special about SSH? So what does it is give us is that it gives us the access of the terminal of the server. At the same time, each and every exchange of message to and fro between server and the client is encrypted, and it is a very big deal in an organization. No, anyone can sniff the data and can use it to hack any of your servers. So how does this each and every message get encrypted? For that, what we use is a symmetric encryption, which you must be knowing about Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange, which is implemented over here. So what it does is that it creates two temporary key pairs. So like in the client side, it creates a client public key, okay, and a client private key, okay, and the same thing is done over here: server public key and server private key. So in the same way, Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange, we send our public key over here, they send our public key over here. Okay, so now with the combination of client private key and server private key, it creates a new symmetric secret key. And in the same way, by using client public key and server private key, it also creates a secret key. Now, whichever message goes from here is encrypted via this secret key and can be decrypted via this secret key. And in the same way, whichever message goes from here is encrypted via this secret key and can be decrypted via this secret key, and vice versa. So yeah, so this is how SSH works. Now let's get to a command that how do you do actual SSH. So you open a terminal on your local machine, write this command SSH username hostname, which could be an IP as well, and press and run the command. If you have a public key, everything will happen magically, automatically, and you will be logged in. If not, then you will be asked for a password, and you have to enter the password to enter that box. Now, what happens now is that a terminal is opened over here, a virtual terminal is opened over here, which can be, by the way, accessed from here. So your terminal is actually a terminal inside this box. Now this terminal is exactly like a normal terminal in your computer or any other computer. It is just a Linux terminal. So now you have access to everything for your user, for this user, which can, by the way, have different accesses. Okay, so now what you need to do is that you need to get to this log. So basically what do? You know the path of the logs. Assuming if you don't know, you have to ask your colleagues or your teammates, and just use basic Linux command like cd and like slash path to log, and boom, you are there in the logs. Now, as we talked about ID, okay, so what do? How do you see the IDs? Let's say the present log file name is log.txt, okay. So you are there in the directory. Now what do? You need to see the logs for this ID, which let's say is XYZ. So how will you do it is that you write a grep XYZ and the name of the file, which is log.txt. Now you get all the lines for the user whose ID is this, and you can see the logs of him, get to a conclusion and get back to your teammate for help or for anything else that you find out. Okay, as a bonus point, you may be ending up in scenarios which is other than getting remote access, other than for the logs, but for the databases. So what happens is that most of the organizations don't give access to databases so easily. So as you can see, if you have got access to this box, obviously this box is accessing the database. Otherwise, how is the code running? How is everything running? Okay, so this box has the access to the database, which is basically nothing but a database server running like this. Okay, so now you want to get a data of some user. How will you do that? So, talking about commands, this is the command that you will be running virtually from this terminal, which is controlled from your local machine. So what you will be doing it right now is that you are writing a MySQL command. You just write MySQL -h, the host name, -u, the username, and the password for the user. Now what you get is that you get a terminal of SQL, MySQL. You can run any query you want and get the data of anyone that you need. And this way, remote server access can help you with accessing databases which cannot be accessed directly via your computers. Okay friends, so today we learned about something very important, which is accessing remote boxes. Next video will always be about a very important topic, that is to serve static files and about S3s. So please stay tuned